Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the sixth and final episode of 15-Minute Tech Tools. My name is Jeff. I'm the Counseling Geek, and I'm here to talk to you today about helping to enhance your email efficiency. I'm going to talk to you specifically about some Google email hacks. And just before we get into a few of the specifics, I did want to just bring up, I know that not every district out there uses Google as their primary tool. Many districts will use other platforms like Outlook. Microsoft Outlook is probably the second most common apart from the Google apps for education. And just know that many of these similar tips and tricks that I'll go over today will be relatively similar or have a similar workaround that you can find on Outlook and many other email platforms like say, Yahoo or things like that. It's pretty standard and conventional methods for many of the things that I'll show you today. Not all of them, but many of them, it is absolutely true. So without any further delay, I'm actually going to hop right into our demonstration. And in order to do that, I'm going to pull up my email address or my email inbox. And you should now be seeing that. And so essentially the first thing I want to actually show you how to do that I use pretty frequently is not many people actually know about how to split up your inbox. And it's really actually a powerful thing that I use frequently as a school counselor. I kind of use my inbox between my calendar, my Google Calendar, and my inbox. Essentially kind of has two different to-do lists that I use. And the main thing that I use it for is I'm able to separate these unread items. And in order to create separate areas of your inbox, you need to go up here to the settings menu. We're going to be accessing settings several times today. And that's that little cog up here. All right, so when you hit settings, you're going to go and hit the settings options there. And then you're going to head over to the inbox area. All right, so along here at the top, we'll actually reference a few of these areas too in the future. All right, so right now the inbox type is set to priority. Okay. And when we are looking at these things, you have a couple different options. Default just shows you kind of the running record of all of your emails. This second one will highlight the important ones, and Google will use some tools to identify which emails you open first. Unread first will have that be available, and that's probably my first priority option that I use. The priority inbox will actually use some machine learning to identify kind of the message that you tend to interact with the most. For our purposes today, I just plugged in priority inbox. At work, I use unread first, and I'll mention why in a second. But you can actually add different sections. You have 4 different sections that you can actually play with. So you can have unread, all right? You can have starred, and then you can say how many are in each, and then everything else, and how many you want in each section. So sometimes people are like 25 emails on one page. That's quite a bit. You can limit it to 5 and have different pages. It's really easy to do. But that's a simple way that I use all of my unread emails sit at the top. And essentially, it acts like a to-do list. If there's something that comes in that's either unread or I want to make sure that I do it in the near future, I typically leave it up here. And when I read something, if you open this, all I do is if I open it and be like, I need to come back to that later, I can either mark it as unread and it stays in that top area. I can also snooze it. So snoozing it means it'll come back and basically appear like a new email in the next whenever I set it. I can set it to some default settings as well as that. But I usually just leave it unread, and that reminds me to do that again in the future. Another great option that not a lot of people know about within Gmail is this thing called a reading pane. All right. And in order to set that up, you need to come back into the settings and come down. Let's see, somewhere right down. There's a lot of settings in here. Right underneath Smart Reply and Nudges. Okay. There's actually something called Preview Pane. All right. And what that's going to do is it's going to enable you to set things and kind of preview what it looks like. This will alter how often or how quickly it marks as read. So if you want it to be read as soon as you open it, just like you opened it somewhere else, that's fine. But if you just want to kind of peek at your email more so than just what's in the subject line, you can actually use this preview pane, and it's not going to mark it as read until whatever you have set here. So I have it set at 20 seconds. But using this preview pane, at the top, no split basically is just standard. Vertical split is probably the most convenient because I can then click on this email, get a full glance at what that looks like, click off of it, and essentially it's not marked as red. All right, so it's a nice way to, if you want to kind of take up a little bit more, use more space on your screen, it's a way that you can do that. The next thing that I want to kind of cover with you guys is a really powerful tool for our time and efficiency. I would like to just throw out there that Trish Hatch is awesome. I really like Trish, and she has come up with a really awesome idea and thought about how our time is being used as school counselors. And a lot of us, we work in this idea of an emergency room where we kind of put out fires as they come in, and really we're supposed to be this functioning like a general practitioner and making appointments and things like that. And if you want to learn more about appointments, make sure you go and watch, I think it was last week's episode about making appointments and working with your calendar. But another way to help with that efficiency is we all know that there's some pretty common emails that we all get pretty frequently and have to reply to. And there's really a wonderful tool within Gmail itself. We do have to turn it on. And again, we're going to go back up to settings. And once we're on the settings, we're going to head all the way over to the advanced tab way over here. We're going to click on it, and it's going to say templates here, this area. You're going to have to click on it enabled. If it's enabled, you don't have to do anything. But if it's enabled, you're going to click enable and hit save. Then you're going to go back to your inbox. And what we're going to do is we're going to compose. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type a generic email. I'm going to say, please visit my website. Okay. And you could type anything. It's just like any other email that you'll send. You can add links. You can add subject lines. There's a ton of different things you can do. But what I'm going to do down here is in this bottom right next to the garbage can, the little 3 dots, more options. You're going to see in a menu item that pops up that says templates. If I wanted to save this short sentence as a template that I can then copy and paste by clicking on this menu into any email reply, I'm going to click save draft as a template. You're not going to overwrite this one, but I'm going to save as a new one. I'm going to say website, something that's going to be catchy for you to remember. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to delete it. And then say, for example, I want to reply to Printful. I'm not going to, but just for example purposes, if I'm going to do that, I'm just going to come up here and say templates, website. It plugs that in. I hit send, all done. I use this frequently. I get all kinds of emails about scheduling. I get all kinds of emails about transcripts and stuff like that are all the same. Please do X, Y, and Z. It's wonderful for process type emails that you need to send that has the same content, essentially. If you have a certain process, hey, I need to make an appointment with you. Awesome. Hop onto Calendly and make an appointment. Here's how you do that. So you don't have to type that out every single time you get that email. I have probably 40 on my work email. So I just want to make sure that you guys know how to do that. This used to be called canned responses. And so canned responses used to be the name of this before Google actually brought it fully on board. And now it's called templates. A couple other tools that are super, super helpful. Let me delete this and head back to my inbox. A couple other tools that will be very helpful for you to know is actually how to search. We all get hundreds and hundreds and thousands of emails a year. Hopefully not a day, but a year. And sometimes we need to actually break down how to actually search and what are some powerful search terms. So we all know the standard search terms. So you can search for a keyword like ask a webinar. You know, if I got emails about an ask a webinar or Twitter notifications, anything that's going to match similar notification words are going to pop up here. That's pretty basic, and everyone knows how to do that. If I wanted to find a specific keyword, so if I said, I don't want just ask a keywords, I want something like cask COVID. Okay, if I wanted to search for those 2 words specifically, not anything extra, I want to use those 2 specific words to narrow down my emails. Because if I search for like receipt or something like that, it's going to find any and all receipts. But if I wanted to find something very specific, exact word match, you put that the quotes around it, and it's going to limit out any kind of like fuzzy options that are on the outside. I don't know if anything's going to come up with this, but ultimately it's going to limit anything else. But if I take this away, we'll see if anything else pops up. You see how it's different? It's not weeding all those out. It's going to try to find one or both of those terms. The other one is sometimes I need to find emails from a certain sender. Gmail makes it kind of easy because I can type in an email address. But you can also limit it by using some kind of like qualifiers, is what they would call it. So I could say from, and if I wanted to say my work email, anything that's from my work email will then pop up. This is helpful if you're trying to track down, like, hey, when was the last time I got an email from this kid? You can type in their email address or their parents, and that's going to be, essentially what will pop up. That's great for finding the sender. You can also do the same thing for a recipient. So if I want to know when was the last time I emailed Jimmy or Johnny, I can write to blah, 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 jream@ttsd.org. And that's going to do the same exact thing with just who I'm sending it to. You can search for emails with attachments. So if you're curious, like, okay, so I need to do, I want to know from me, so jream@ttsd.org. And here's a nice little trick to it. You see how that was gray? And then what I did was I clicked the right arrow and it automatically filled it. Okay, so it's a time-saving technique there too. And you can add another. You can say has attachment. Okay, so I can do multiple searches. And so if I want to say from me and has an attachment, that's going to limit only emails from my work email and only emails with an attachment. If I take this away, it's only going to show me emails that have attachments to it. Right? So it's a really, really nice way to limit some of your searches and really manage some of your inbox. You can wrap multiple keywords in brackets. So if I wanted to say, like, again, task webinar, if I wanted to wrap it in a bracket like this, what it's going to do, it's going to search kind of like you did your original one, but it's going to include both keywords in your search. The other one that I really use a lot, kind of like my little to-do list with my unread mail, I also do it with the starred mail. So you can kind of see that here in my inbox as well. I have my starred items, but if you wanted to use the star feature to kind of call out and remember emails, if again, this qualifier is unread, is read, is starred, is actually another nice one that is helpful because it'll pull up all of my starred messages. All right, so that reminds me to come back and get some information about it. The other piece that can be helpful is if I want to, say, automate a little bit of my inbox. And for example, I do teacher page teachers, and I don't love all their little updates. I don't care that much. And so I'm going to filter out some of those emails. So if I wanted to search for Joe and Amy, because that's part of the title that is almost always sent, if I'm going to search for that, what's going to happen is all of these little items pop up. All right. So I could easily just go through and highlight them all and delete them. But what I want to do is I want to avoid them being in my inbox altogether. All right. So what I'm going to do is this little arrow over here has different search icons. So you can do a little bit more deep searching using this as well. I don't know if you knew this was there. This also can let you limit the attachments. But important, powerful piece is down here under the create filter. If I want to use this search to create a filter, and what a filter does is it allows me to use this in the future, and it will bypass a lot of these pieces. If I click on that, it's going to give me a lot of different options. I can skip the inbox, so I can automatically archive these emails. I can just mark it as read, so it doesn't pop up in my important area. I can star important emails. I can label it, so I can use different folders and stuff like that. I can just delete it altogether if I wanted to. I can forward it. There's all kinds of different things you can do. For me, what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to skip the email, skip the inbox, and mark it as read. All right. It's going to say create filter. And then at the very bottom, one important piece, if you want to do this with all the other emails that you've had underneath that search, you can also basically, if I want all these to go away, click that last box too. Create the filter, and then it's going to basically process and it will go away. All right. So that's a nice way to essentially see how it just got archived and now it is also read. One of the final things that I want to mention, final two things that I'll leave you guys with for our last episode that are pretty powerful tools. If you are a part of a group email, we all get added to like emails that go to 20 different people, and maybe you've seen your way out of that email, or it's no longer relevant. It's gone down a different path. You can actually mute conversations. And one thing that is nice about that, if I wanted to mute conversations, okay, underneath, if I opened up an email at this top menu, I can come down here and click mute. And what that's going to do is I'm going to stop getting notified about new responses. Um, it's important to know that if you then all of a sudden become relevant in that conversation, you will no longer mute. So it's important to know that you have actually seen yourself out of that conversation. But essentially, it saves it without deleting it or archiving it. But you just don't get new emails if like a million people are responding, kind of like on chat text messages where there's 20 people and they all say thanks, 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 awesome. Okay, that is what this feature is there for. All right, so that's another neat feature that will let you kind of have a little bit of sanity and quiet if you're part of those emails, because I know I sure am. The last thing that I want to mention, and I'll just leave you with a few notes after it, is a wonderful way to also help your searches and help you be able to find things in the future is you can actually use hashtags in your emails. Okay. And most of the time, it's not going to be in the body of your email. But if you wanted to say, for example, write an email to someone and then say either underneath your signature, if you wanted to add some hashtags like follow up or, student, parent, whatever. Okay, those are going to show up in the email at the very bottom. However, what's nice is when you search for those things, it makes a really easy search term. All you have to do is search for hashtag parent, and any email that you've then tagged with that hashtag will then automatically filter to the top, and it will be it's a much more foolproof search that doesn't require a whole lot of extra work. And it's really useful if you have one or two things that you really need to pay close attention to that you want to add these hashtags to. It really can add some value and efficiency to your work. So, for example, this would be something that I would do if I had a to-do list. If I wanted to create a to-do list, I can do this. Or if I wanted to have a record of my transcript requests, it's an easy way to manage that too. So the last thing that I just want to say is a huge thank you to everyone. This is the 6th episode. Like I said, this is going to be our final episode of this little mini series. I'll probably come up with something. I might pull it back later on in the year. For right now, I think this is good for me. And if you guys have other ideas, I'd love to hear from you about what you'd like to see. But I want to thank you for sticking in. I also want to mention too that you can always go back into our YouTube playlist. So if you go to youtube.com/The Counseling Geek, you can actually watch all 6 episodes in their entirety if you missed any of the episodes or need to revisit anything. But I do want to thank you for spending 15 minutes over the last couple of weeks with me a couple of times a week as we looked at how to make yourself a better school counselor digitally and online. But these tools that we covered are so important, not only while we're on this lockdown and quarantine status, but also when you return to your buildings, hopefully very soon. So I want to say thank you for joining me. Thank you for sticking with me, and please stay safe, stay healthy, and keep on learning. That's the most important thing. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend, and a great afternoon, and a great rest of your week.